class and social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one makes countries laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one makes countries laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. You're listening on UCY.tv. And it is, I'm not sure what the date is today. What's the date out there? Today is August the 11th, 2015. And tonight I'm going to spend the show talking about something I saw in the Globe and Mail newspaper. And it's a little freaky, but it's not unexpected. So it's about barcoding every single species on Earth. Now, for those who have a background and have some research and stuff, and understand the Rockefeller Foundation and the UN and the world government and all that kind of stuff, this is just part and parcel of the ongoing psychological warfare that's being applied against us, and it's also has to do with what's eventually going to become the guaranteed income, because what they want to do is they want to monetize everything on the planet, and once they monetize it, then they're going to take control of it, and then they will fork out to you, distributed evenly amongst everyone on the planet, what their idea of adequate housing, food, water, and all that kind of stuff is. And their idea of adequate is certainly not your idea of adequate. That's for sure. So anyways, this was in the, I'm going to spend the night, or this show, discussing the first part of this. And then I think on Thursday night, I'll try to put the connections together to the outfits like the Rockefeller Foundation and whatnot. Now, if you understand the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, Ford Foundation, and the gazillion foundations that have been created since in the NGOs, and the NGOs are funded by the foundations, okay? So the foundations come up with these false problems, then they fork out the money to the NGOs who will write the stories, which eventually end up in the newspaper, which eventually end up in your parliament or your legislature, where they have to make rules because this is what people are screaming for, problem, reaction, solution. Anyways, I want to buzz through this story in the Globe and Mail. I mean, it's getting more bizarre by the day. These guys, as they're pushing hard now, and that goes back to Rockefeller saying that our window of opportunity has already begun to close, and that was way back in '99. Anyways, this is a story. Canadian scientists' mission: barcode every single species on the Earth. And if life on Earth is like a vast library, one book per species, Paul Herbert's dream is to catalog that library and reveal for the first time the full scope of the richness that it contains. His nightmare, that is, we are burning the books without ever bothering to read them. 1/3 of the living species on our planet could be gone by the end of this century, said Professor Herbert, or Hebert, who heads the Biodiversity Institute of Ontario at the University of Guelph. A couple of things right off the bat here. Now, I keep harping about the way these newspapers write their stories. There's nothing to base anything on these stories, same as global warming. 1/3 of the species living on our planet could be gone by the end of the century. Based on what? Based on what? Absolutely nothing. That's what it's based on. And this professor heads the Biodiversity Institute of Ontario at the University of Guelph. Well, the University of Guelph also has an agriculture university there, and that is the same university who taught the young people how to farm. And those young people who were indoctrinated at the university went back to the single-family farms and told their parents they weren't farming right, that they had to invest big time in heavy equipment, and the family's going, what are you, nuts? Where are we getting the money for that? Well, that's when they artificially jacked up the price of farmland, and then the bankers come in and say, oh, well, you have lots of equity, so you can borrow whatever you want so that you can modernize your farm. Which indebted the farmers, and then along come the 70s, and farmers were just being chucked off their land left, right, or center, because once they had them indebted, they jacked up the interest rate. I think it went up as high as 21%, and bankrupted farm after farm after farm after farm. All planned internationally, and have the kids come into the universities, indoctrinate them, just like they're indoctrinated now with the green movement and climate change, and now we're going to barcode all the species. So, I don't have any use whatsoever for scientists, and I don't have any use for universities. I don't have any use for the entire school system, because we know where it came from. It was the Prussian school system that was templated and brought here. It was the Rockefellers and the other foundations who initially funded the public school system, not because they want anybody to get an education, but because they want to control what is taught to them. Okay, same thing. Rockefeller here in Ontario funded the first healthcare system here in Ontario, long time ago. Mackenzie King, our Prime Minister, worked for the Rockefeller Foundation. But it's never about, they call it philanthropy. What it is throwing cash around to get control is what it's about. And they control the universities, and they control the science. Anyways, we will regret it, says the professor, a very long time in the future if we don't do something. It's the same story as climate change, right? By the end of the century, we could go to 4 degrees, maybe not, but we don't want to go with the maybe not, so we'll just throw this out at you. It could happen, and therefore we have to do something about it today. Even though there's no science, there's no data, there's nothing to back up anything these guys are doing. But we got to do it. By something, the professor means a project of unprecedented scale, a biological moonshot in which Canada would play a leading role. Canada's always playing a leading role. Canada played a leading role in the setup of the United Nations. Okay, people think in the world that Canada is this country of these quiet people, these very docile people. Well, while they're docile, the people running the so-called government slash company are not. Okay, they've been playing a psychological war forever. So beware of the quiet one, and that would be Canada. Um, Anyways, the time has come, he says, to genetically index every multicellular species on Earth, estimated to number somewhere between 10 and 20 million. And we have to do this before a large share of those species vanish without a trace. Now, I don't know how they're going to vanish without a trace because, I keep hearing stories. They found a dinosaur tooth and they can tell all this marvelous history from a dinosaur tooth or something. Or they found a single cell fossil somewhere and they can tell us all about the past. But if we don't document right now, they're going to vanish without a trace. Obviously, we recognize this is a giant challenge when you start thinking about it, says Professor Hebert. But this is not science that can wait. No, science can never wait. Science is always in a hurry. A version of the project is already underway thanks to a technique that the professor has long championed, known as DNA barcoding. It involves using a small set of genetic markers to uniquely identify any species that biologists can sample, like a product barcode at a supermarket checkout. Now, we've heard all kinds of stories about ride checks and, somebody gets arrested, they want their DNA. Okay? This is what's going on. The Shriners, the Masons here in Ontario, at least several years back, were running around doing a thing about how to protect children, these little kits they made up. And part of that kit was getting the DNA of the children. Okay? The method forms the basis for the International Barcode of Life. And we're going to talk about that once I get through this article. $100 million initiative that was launched in 2010 and is supported by Canada, Germany, China, the U.S. National Science Foundation, among other partners. Now in its final year, the project is nearing its goal of barcoding 500,000 species, an achievement that will be celebrated at the scientific meeting in Guelph next week. But for the professor, the most important outcome of the effort is that it demonstrates that DNA barcoding can work at even large scales. During the meeting, he planned, to unveil his ambitious proposals for a $2.5 billion expansion of the concept to barcode all species of plants, animals, and fungi, both on land and in the oceans. Tom Lovejoy, what a great name, eh? Tom Lovejoy, a conservationist biologist at George Mason University and a senior fellow at the United Nations Foundation in Washington, D.C., is among the prominent scientists coming to voice support for the plan. This is all pre-planned, as everything is. They work in the back rooms, putting this stuff together. They get all their propaganda together, and then they launch it into the media, and then they have their conferences, right? Just like they did way back in '72 in Stockholm with the first conference on the human environment. This stuff's all concocted. None of it's real. None of it's true. And these newspapers know it's not true, and they know it's a load of bunk, but they just keep punching this stuff out. Not because they're independent. That's for sure. Okay? They're definitely not independent. Let me see here. Aldo Leopold, the pioneering American ecologist, said that the first rule of intelligent tinkering is to save all the pieces. Professor Lovejoy said. Barcoding tells you what the pieces are. It was Professor Lovejoy who first coined the term biological diversity in 1980. Okay? Right after that, we started to have, we got Our Common Future in 87. Everything leads to the next step. These are long-term planners. Anyways, to express what scientists were beginning to understand as a more systematic way of looking at life on Earth. Now the tools of the genetic revolution have handed scientists a way to quantify that diversity, which many experts say is a necessary prerequisite for preserving and managing it. You see, it's all about taking control, excuse me, of everything on the planet. Okay, and that includes you that they're taking control of, and so this is really, really very important stuff. The cost of Professor Hebert's supersized barcoding project would have to be borne by a coalition of nations. See, it's always a global problem. All the nations have to be involved in it. It's not just some scientists. It has to be global, always global. Like other big science initiatives, including the Large Hadron Collider or the 30-meter telescope. But Canada, where the idea originated and where the International Barcode of Life database is housed, would be in a position to spearhead the effort, potentially making it one of the country's most significant contributions to the world in any domain. More than any other country, Canada is invested in the research and infrastructure, which is now used globally, said Jan van Toy, Managing Director of Naturalists Biodiversity Center in Leiden, the Netherlands. The new proposal would turn DNA barcoding into a mega science, a major leap for a technique that has sometimes met with resistance from other researchers. No frickin' wonder, because some of the researchers probably ask the question, what the hell do you think you guys are doing? But then they don't get listened to. Just like all those scientists that said, this global warming stuff, it ain't going anywhere. And those people are just shunted aside and never heard from. You never hear from them in a newspaper. In part, this is because those who practice taxonomy, science that defines organisms on the basis of their physical characteristics, had to be convinced that the genetic differences used in barcoding truly correspond to distinct species. For example, the method has been harder to apply to plants than animals because plant genetics are a more complicated affair. Nevertheless, barcoding has the advantage of using genetics to discern species-level differences among large numbers of individuals, even when those differences are not visibly apparent. It's been demonstrated this by setting up a trap for insects in his backyard, says the professor. Instead of trying to identify the countless individual bugs it captures, a practical impossibility, he ran the trap's contents through a blender and genetically tested the result. Barcoding quickly told him that some 5,000 different arthropod species inhabit his backyard, a number he said he found staggering. Well, I guess, but you put it in a blender, you twit. So he put up a little trap, caught some stuff, put it in the blender, and come up with this idea that there are 5,000 different species inhabiting his backyard. Now, it's pathetic. This type of approach reveals that certain sections of the insect class are unaccountably diverse, notably wasp and ant and some types of flies and beetles. What they all have in common is that they are haplopoid. I can't even read that. Meaning that males of the species develop from under-fertilized eggs or from unfertilized eggs and have only one copy of each chromosome rather than the standard two. Barcoding suggests that this unusual breeding system somehow accelerates at the rate of evolution. Okay, so what? You're going to have crickets turn into what? Dinosaurs? Crickets turn into dogs? This whole evolution thing is a crock of nonsense. They know it, but there's a lot of money in it, and it's not so much about the money, it's about control. But you fire enough money at these scientists, and they will give you whatever data you want. I mean, I would question this, that he put up a little trap in his backyard, put what he caught in a blender, and through DNA sampling come up with this idiot idea that there are 5,000 species living in his backyard, and they were all caught in that little trap. So much for DNA. More broadly, the method brings the definition of a species closer to what reality is, a slice through a continuum of shifting and diverging genetic combinations rather than an immutable item on a long list of birds and beasts. Barcoding allows us to notice two species that are far earlier in their evolution and splitting, to the point where they can still exchange genes, said Dan Jansen, an evolutionary ecologist at the University of Pennsylvania. Responding from a field station in Costa Rica. It just happens to be where what's that university called? The University of whatever, that was founded by Morris Strong in Costa Rica. These are all players. Anyways, I now see that I live in an ocean of emerging species. Scientific insights aside, DNA barcoding has social and economic implications because it can be deployed to help halt the loss of biodiversity, one of the Sustainable Development Goals expected to be adopted by the United Nations next month, Professor Lovejoy said. Professor Hebert said he wanted his proposal to be seen as more than a research exercise. We're going to pitch this project as humanity's need to know. And that's what's cooking there. So, when you go from that article and you go to the Barcode of Life site, now see, I call me an ignorant man, right, if you want, but I had no idea that this was the upcoming 6th conference of the International Barcoders. I had no idea because I'd never heard of it before. But apparently, it is. So we'll just slide over here to, where did I put that? Where did I put that? Oh my goodness. It's in here someplace. Oh, here we are. Sorry about that. Too many tabs open again. Anyways, this is the 6th International Barcode of Life Conference. Is going to be held August the 18th to the 21st in Guelph, Ontario. Now I'm going to stick this particular thing in the chat, but the actual, if you're just listening on radio, the actual address of it is ibol.org, the International Barcode of Life.org. You should go there and look this up. And like I said, I'm going to stick this in the chat here. Where are we? Because this is important. This is really getting to the crux of stuff. Now, they're telling you that you need to, all the time, they're looking for you to give money to all these charities and that because people don't have enough money or food or housing or all of these things. And yet these people over the years have just spent money like it's water on these projects here, and all of these projects are about nothing more than entrapment for everybody else on the planet. Anyways, this is the About Us. I always like this. Imagine, and beside that, we have a young girl holding are you ready? A monarch butterfly. Yes, it's all symbolism. Imagine a world in which you can know the name of any animal, any plant, any fungus, any organism on the spot in an instant, anywhere on our planet. Imagine that you had access to the sum of humanity's knowledge about that species. Is it harmful? Is it part of a healthy ecosystem? Or is it endangered and in need of protection? How would this change our lives, our perspectives, and our impact on this planet's biodiversity? What would it be like to live in a bioliterate world? To date, this world has largely remained within the realm of science fiction and its users restricted to explorers of new and distant planets. But the rationale for developing such a system includes clear application here and now. The globalization of trade, increased impacts of climate change, and calls for biodiversity conversation make rapid species identification a worldwide need. Man. As many of us go about our daily lives, we're surrounded by a staggering array of consumer products, all diligently cataloged and labeled with the familiar black and white barcode, the Universal Product Code system developed by the industrial sector to brand retail items, employs 10 options at each of 11 positions to create 100 billion alternatives. Although the undecipherable and uninformative to the average person, UPC barcodes provide retailers a means of identifying a product and connecting it to a more meaningful data such as price and availability. Just like the UPC barcode, the DNA sequences within each species are unique, and like the 11-digit UPCs, short DNA sequences can provide means of connecting a specimen in hand to a wealth of information and species. Now, what this is all about, I know a lot of people know what it's about, but a lot of people hopefully listening maybe don't know what it's about. And it's all about you. It's all about you. You see, according to Club of Rome, humanity is the enemy of Earth. And you, the human, hurt everything you come in contact with. Okay? Why, just walking across your yard, you could squish, according to the professor there. I mean, he just put a little trap out, and once he put it in the blender, he came up with 5,000 species. Now, you'd think the guy that wrote the story in the paper would go, wait a minute here, Professor. You're telling me you went out in your backyard and you put up a little trap and you caught some flies and bugs and maybe a cricket or whatever. And then you went in the house and you put it in a blender. And from that, you did a DNA test and you come up with the idea that there's 5,000 different species in your blender. What, are you whacked in the head? But no, they print it anyways. No questions asked. They just print it. No requirement of proof at all. That's why I hate science so much. Science fiction is what it is, or fiction reality. But it's not based on anything you can put your finger on other than a fantasy. So what they're doing here is they're running you off the rural areas and into the cities. Now, over the years, the United Nations continually say, in such and such a year, there was, 50% of the people lived in cities. And then a few years later, they up it to 65, 70. Now it's 80% of the people living in the cities. Why is this? Well, because they were driven into the cities. Okay. Their economic livelihoods were shut down outside of the cities, and it drove the people into the cities. Most of the people that went to the city didn't want to be in the city, but they didn't have a financial future where they were because it was taken away from them. So we've all heard stories where the farmer can't, cut his hay because there may or may not be a salamander or a bird in the field who could tell because the wheat or the hay's high. And but these data freaks, they say, well, this is the nesting period or this is the breeding period, and even though we don't have any evidence it may be in your field or is in your field, there's a possibility it could be, and the slightest possibility it could be gives us the need to not let you bring your crop in until that breeding season is over. And that's this DNA crap, okay? And the scientists, the foundations, the NGOs, the United Nations, they depend on skewing data in order to influence people, in order to change their behaviors. We have turtle crossings all over the place now. Now, I don't want to hurt a turtle, right? We're building a moose runway in Edmonton, I think it is, $1.5 million or something. So hopefully the moose will go under the highway. But I have a funny feeling the moose are not going to go down in there because it's all concrete and man-made and that kind of thing. And in Ontario here, from from Algonquin Park down to the Adirondacks, they're clearing a highway, a natural highway, not a paved highway, an animal highway, so that the animals can have access from Algonquin Park down into the Adirondacks. Now, the deer and the moose and the beavers and raccoons and the muskrats and whatnot who live up in Algonquin Park are not going to be that interested in hiking it down to the Adirondacks unless they have relatives. Maybe somebody from the Adirondacks, a moose or a deer, through Canada Post maybe, sent a letter up to their friends or relatives in Algonquin Park and invited them down for the weekend or a barbecue or whatever. But the whole idea of this is to run you completely off the rural areas, okay? Because you, the human, are the one who's causing all the mayhem on the planet. And therefore, we must contain you in order that we can let the animals run loose. So as they start barcoding all of this, and apparently they've already barcoded 500,000 out of the 10 to 20 million. Now, how's that for a stretch on the numbers? Okay, somewhere between 10 and 20 million species, give or take 10 million. I mean, these scientists have no credibility. How can you be out by 10 million? These people tell us they can tell us what the temperature is going to be in 100 years with nothing to back that up with, but apparently the species are already here, according to them. And they're out by upwards of 10 million, or 100%. 100% wrong. Now, the background on this, there's another butterfly. I like butterflies normally, but this stuff's really starting to bug me. Building the biodiversity knowledge gap. Earth is home to an estimated 10. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Now, in the article in the Globe and Mail, it was 10 to 20 million species. Now, if we go on the International Barcode of Life conference site and we look at background and it says building the biodiversity knowledge gap, it says here that Earth is home to an estimated 10 to 100 million species. So you're going to barcode all the species on the planet, and you think there's somewhere between 10 and 100 million species. See, this is like the war on terror. It never ends, okay? It never ends. So the funding must continue. Same shit. War on drugs, war on homeless. It's always the same garbage. Anyways, 10 to 20 million species, but 250 years of morphological study has formally described fewer than 2 million of them. Current approaches to the study of biological diversity are seriously hampered by the limited ability of humans to recognize and recall the morphological variation. Few taxidermists or taxonomists can reliably diagnose even 100,000 species, and that means that we will need up to 100,000 taxonomists simply to sustain the ability to recognize Earth's 10 to 100 million species once they have all been described. It is this stark reality that is driving a new approach to species recognition called DNA barcoding. Okay, brief history here. In 2003, researchers at the University of Guelph in Canada published a paper proposing a new system of species identification to discover using a very short generic sequence from a standard part of the genome. Their method was similar to the way a supermarket scanner distinguishes products. They called the new molecular identification system DNA barcoding. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. Now, let's see what we got here. Okay, let's go here. Partner nations. And if you go there to partner nations, you will see all of the flags flying. Or not all of them, but there's a picture. You know it's the United Nations building where all these flags are flying, where this picture was taken. So Canada and China seem to be the big players in this, excuse me. So we have down below here, we have central, regional, and national, and under central it has Canada and China, and then below that the European Union with a bunch of those countries, and below that we have United Kingdom, United States, and so on and so forth. And it's really, really, this is bad, man. This is really bad. Nowhere in here can I find United Nations listed. The sponsors they have, the International Barcode of Life project is the largest, most comprehensive biodiversity genome program ever undertaken. Initiated through the Genome Canada's flagship international consortium initiative, the ICI, brought IBOL is supported by a very large number of funding organizations, biological resource collections, and a diverse assemblage of researchers from around the world. This page acknowledges funders that have contributed more than $100,000 to support the participating nations and scientific objectives of the project. Because IBOL has also benefited from access to specimens held by many natural history collections, this page includes a list of those that have contributed at least 5,000 specimens for barcode analysis, which I think is kind of funny because the professor from the Guelph University just went on his backyard, set a little trap, caught a few bugs, put them in his blender, and whammo, he had, 5,000 specimens. So we can all get our name on something, I suppose. While access to funding and specimens has been critical, IBOL's progress also reflects the scientific involvement of more than 1,000 researchers without whom the project could not be possible. Now, this goes also along the lines of when they went and did the seed cataloging, okay, a bunch of years ago. The idea there was to, take samples of all seed on the planet and then store that away in a vault, wherever it is, Norway, wherever the hell that vault is, Iceland, I don't know. Store all of those seeds so that if someday there is a big catastrophe, those seed banks will be safe. What they did there was they simply took your seed away from you and gave you Monsanto. Okay, and I'm sure that these elite, if that's what they want to call themselves, don't eat Monsanto garbage. That's for us. We're the humans. We're the guinea pigs. I'm sure that they are eating very healthy organic food planted from the original seed base, but not for you. Anyways, there's a bunch of funding organizations here. A lot of these I don't recognize, but see, we have the Richard Lounsbury Foundation out of Argentina, I guess. Australia, we have the new Agriculture Genomics Center in Australia, TERN, Terrestrial Ecosystem Research Network, Brazil, MCTI, which is in Spanish, I can't read it. In Canada, good old Canada. What a bunch. Innovation Canada, Canadian Foundation for Innovation. We have Environment Canada. We have Genome Canada. We have the IDRC, which is the International Development Research Center, and the FINBIF Innovation, the NSERG. I don't even know who these. I'll have to look those up. The Ontario Genomics Institute. I take it that's in Guelph. The Ontario Ministry of Economic Development and Innovation, the University of Guelph. So we're pretty big players in this. And I would imagine I'm going to find a lot of Rockefeller Foundation involved in this thing. So Germany's involved in it, the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. We have a lot of these names I can't read because I can't read their language. The United States of America, we have the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, Gordon and Barry Moore Foundation, and the Biological Collections. And then we have, again, Argentina, Australia, Canada is the Biodiversity Institute of Ontario, which is the University of Guelph, the Canadian National Collection of Insects. I didn't know we had one of those. The Royal Ontario Museum, the Center for Environmental and Molecular Alga Research, University of New Brunswick and York University, Costa Rica. I can't read that. Institute of National Biodiversity, I guess. And Finland and France and Germany and Mexico, South Africa, United Kingdom, Natural History Museum, London, United States of America, the Coalition or the California Academy of Sciences, Florida Museum of Natural History, the Florida State University, the Smithsonian National Museum and Natural History, the Stroud Water Research Center, and the University of Pennsylvania. But those are just the front names that they've put up here. There's a whole slew of other stuff going on here. So the Canada node profile here, we got some stuff here. The DNA barcode library. So we have, I'm going to put this stuff also in the chat. I found it on that site, but it might be easier just to stuff it into the chat. But what I'm going to do between now and Thursday, I'm just going to do a bit of looking and see who I can attach this stuff to. And I see I got to reload this chat because it's not going to take, or if it is taking the link, I went in twice. But the big picture of this whole thing is that it's going to suck a whole bunch more money out of your pockets, and it is going to entrap you further. So while you're out there working, okay, trying to pay your higher taxes, your higher water bills, your higher food bills, gas bills, utility bills, and so on and so forth, that's being hammered on you, then now you're going to get to pay for this other stuff. And it's the same thing as they did with CETA here. Here's a funding formula from the same outfit. And it will just increase because, you know, there's somewhere between 10 and 100 million 10 and 100 million species out there. Now, they know everything about, and I'm going to put this in too, maybe some of you guys want to look up some of these people's names, and maybe you might even want to give them a phone call. I would really, really like it if somebody listening to this who is near Guelph, if it would be possible for someone to go down to Guelph and film some of this conference. That would be fantastic, because we got to stick it to these people. I mean, I'd like somebody to go into that meeting and ask, you know, okay, you guys are pretty smart. How is it you think that there's somewhere between 10 and 100 million species? And how are you going to categorize this stuff? The same people going to be doing this. I mean, how are you going to do this? Because if there's 10 million species or 100 million species or somewhere in the middle, and you have all these scientists running around, and I have no idea how 100 scientists are supposed to categorize 10 million, let alone 100 million species. That in itself is a complete and total impossibility. So we're going to have to continue to hire more scientists. We're going to have to continue to bleed your pockets more. And we're going to find more and more species that we didn't know existed, and they probably don't. They just make the shit up. And you won't be able to mow your lawn. You won't be able to water your lawn. You won't be able to do this. You won't be able to do that. And that's the whole point of what they're up to. That's what they do. Okay, so this is just Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, the NSERC, University of Guelph, picked up 5.4 million. The Federal Agency Department and Natural Resources Canada and Parks, University of Guelph, same guy, that Paul Hebert, which is the same professor that was in the story in the Globe and Mail. So he's the principal of the institution of natural science and engineering research, of which picked up 5.4 million. He's also the Federal Agency Department of Natural Resources Canada and Parks, University of Guelph, same guy, Same outfit, Canadian Barcode of Life Network, picked up 1 million. The Genome Canada, same guy, Paul Hebert, picked up 5.6 million. The Ontario Ministry of Research and Innovation, same guy, University of Guelph, picked up 5 million. Genome Canada, University of Guelph, Paul Hebert, Administration, Research, Sequencing Activity, picked up 25 million. International Development Research Center, the IDRC, University of Guelph, Paul Hebert. Barcode Research and Applications in 5 developing nations, Argentina, Costa Rica, Kenya, Peru, and South Africa, picked up $12 million. The Ontario Ministry of Research and Innovation, the MRI, University of Guelph again, the principal, Paul Hebert, nearly 80% will be used to support BOLD through 2015. I don't know what BOLD is. Something to do with barcoding, I guess. So the remainder will support development of barcode libraries for crop pests, freshwater insects used in biomonitoring, and for species in Algonquin Park who would like to go and visit their relatives in the Adirondacks. Picked up 6.9 million. These are all confirmed numbers. So what do we got? 5, 6, 11, 16, 36, 41, 41, 45, and 6. About $50 million has been fed out of your pockets into the receiving institution principal investigators. So Paul Hebert has a vested interest in this. Okay? Oh, there's, okay, then we have a couple other guys here. The Environment Canada Genomes Fund, David Marcolis, picked up 131.5 million. York University picked up 80 grand. Ontario Ministry of Food and Agriculture picked up 10, and Flowers Canada Adaptation Council picked up 67. So these are very low numbers compared to what the University of Guelph and Paul Hebert picked up. They picked up about 50 million. These other people picked up diddly squat. But this is how it operates. Okay, now CETA, which Maurice Strong was involved in, and he also started up the IISD, the International Institute for Sustainable Development, which is headquartered in Winnipeg. They just sucking money off you for these projects, which only have one purpose, and that is to entrap you and to basically put you in a zoo type of thing. So, we have a list here of, the universities: Guelph, University of New Brunswick, York, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, University of Guelph again, University of Guelph, McMaster University, University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, Royal Museum Ontario, Natural Resources Canada, Brock University, Laval University, Canadian Forest Service, and last one, McMaster University. All of these universities are funded, or at least the research funding comes from the tax-exempt and the not-for-profit foundations. That's where the money comes from. And these are the foundations in that come up with these problem, reaction, solution situations. Or what they do in the Rockefeller Foundation is they do scenarios. They come up with a false problem, one that doesn't exist, and then they make solution scenarios. Not saying any of them are correct, but one of them may be more correct than the other. Maybe that's the one we should follow, or maybe we should follow them all and fund all of them until we get one that's going the proper direction that we want it to go in. So, while you're out working hard, sitting in traffic, trying to get to work or whatever, and, choking every time you get a utility bill nowadays, just remember these people, okay? They're wicked, They're sociopaths. They're definitely psychopaths. I mean, they're so callous. I mean, if I was putting a proposal together, and I said, I'm thinking I could build, sustainable housing or something, and I've narrowed down the cost of each unit to somewhere between $10,000 and $200 million. And I think we can work within that framework. And it's necessary that we get going on it as quickly as we can. So we're going to need some massive funding, first of all, to find out just how close we are. Is it 10,000? Is it 200 million? Is it somewhere in the middle? And then we're going to research this, and then hopefully we can come up with the This is what they do. I mean, for a newspaper to write 10 million to 20 million. Now, I guess they narrowed that down because when they went to the Barcode site with this professor, and when it's, 10 million to 100 million, who the hell's going to buy that? Well, nobody. So you take it back over in the newspaper, you put it in 10 to 20 million. So they're promoting this. They're promoting this this conference, but they're not using the numbers from the conference. Okay, so if they'd put in the paper 10 million to 100 million different species, I mean, even the dumbest would go, well, that makes no sense. So we wind it down from 10 to 20 million, and most people, what's 10 million? What the hell? But we got to save the environment, okay? And therefore we have to move ourselves aside so that this 5,000 species that lives in this professor's backyard can survive and thrive. Bloody sick. Anyways, we're out of time. I'm going to do a little research between here and Thursday and try to bring some background, a little more background to this thing. Maybe you've heard of it before. I haven't, but it's the 6th conference, so probably the first 5 were held in Peru and Argentina, and that you never even heard of them. Could be the problem. I'll go check that out anyways. And always remember, keep shining the light on these people. Pass these stories around to your friends and families, and it's the only way we're going to beat them, right? We got to get average Joe woke up somehow, and I think there's a lot of information in here that may go a long ways to help them wake them up. Anyways, this has been Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is UCY TV, best little radio network on the internet. And we shall see you again on Thursday night, where we're going to continue with this. So I should hear some music in about 1 minute. I'm waiting for it. But anyways, I want again, while I got a minute, I want to thank Jules. I don't know, I never met her. I think I spoke to her once on the phone, and but she stays on top of this, and she's making this work. Oh, there's the music there. Okay, everybody take care. It's been a pleasure. You have no idea how much this station means to me. So take care, and on Thursday we will continue with this Barcode. Okay? Everybody take care. See you Thursday. Bye-bye.